So, if you're all thinking, why do you think I hate Fridays? I don't hate Fridays, I just hate this Friday. And you wanna know why? It's because this was an off day for me, and I had to move my scheduling back a bit because, I just wanted to end this day sooner. But let me explain to you exactly what happened during my Friday and why it feels like I just got messed up. So I called my dad to ask me if he can help me do a few errands, and he obviously agreed to that since, of course, I didn't have anything else but a bus pass, and he basically owned a car. But it wasn't just any ordinary car, it was basically a rundown, old down, broken Honda, or Hyundai actually, which used to belong to my grandma before she passed away. So he had to fight for it from my uncle, who had possession of it, as well as this house that he tried to sell without my dad even knowing. But I'll not get into that much detail, I'll just tell you about that in another video. We had to get a few things done. First, we had to go get my paycheck. Next, we had to go and take care of some groceries. And finally, we all just had to get some gasoline, which I had to pay for since I was the one who insisted. So first off, my paycheck. Now, I go up to the building and see if anyone's here. I know they're open, but it feels like that no one would actually hear me knocking or ringing the doorbell, which the doorbell is broken, as well as the other thing, because no one would hear the front door from the other room. So I go around to the back, and I finally get someone's attention, and as soon as I tell them what organization I was working for, they told me that I had to come back in 30 minutes since my check was still being sent to the place. And that just basically felt like I was the one who was causing much pain to them, because I felt like I was being, pushy and rushing them, because they just gave me a look afterwards, which I felt very discriminating. We move on to groceries immediately, even though I didn't have my check to put in. But my dad was able to pay for those, since he did have some food stamps on him, and he said I can just get at least anything for about $100. I know he might not be that successful, but I'm still proud of how he handles things well, considering that he basically lives in this old one-house place. Well, one story, and it's basically the place where you would expect a Disney princess to live before becoming a princess. So, the first thing I have in mind, I had to just get some snacks. Chicken, pizza, but mostly I was also trying to get some carrots, because carrots are my favorite vegetable next to corn and broccoli, but I never knew how to actually make carrots. So I thought to myself, how about my sister teach me? Then maybe I can actually learn how to cook for myself instead of just doing Uber Eats. Now we had one more thing to do, which is get gas, but my dad had to be a little bit hesitant and grab the list since we had a few more things. It was supposed to be that one thing we are doing on our list, but my dad just grabbed the list and just made adjustments to it. And when I mean adjustments, he pushed the last thing on our list to the last thing on our list, because he added two more things, which are visiting my grandmother's grave. Now, I never wanted to be actually here because I always feel sad at night sometimes, and I always miss her, because before my mom actually, who basically left for Florida, she was the only one who was there for me next to my dad and my brother. Well, so far, she took care of me for at least 13 years until I moved to Florida, which was the biggest mistake of my life. We only go down to her grave, well, the cemetery actually, because we needed some location to know where it is, considering that she doesn't have a tombstone and we don't actually know exactly where she's buried at, considering I was never at her funeral, which I felt bad about because no one had told me this sooner. And right now, I only hate the people who would never include me into something serious like that. We get the directions sent to Dad's email, even though he doesn't actually know how to use his own phone. So, out of rage, I just grabbed his phone, pulled up his email, then actually gave it back to him because I got sick and tired of always having to teach adults how to use technology in the modern ages. I mean, seriously? Are we destined to be those older people soon? Nah. I mean, personally for me, if I was in my 40s, I would obviously know how to actually use the newer iPhone or the newer Windows compared to what my children would do. Basically, just grab a tablet and put on Disney Channel. Now we go on to laundry because I didn't know he had laundry bags in the trunk of the car. So he insisted that I put those in for him, considering I had no choice since he's handicapped. And I'm sorry I didn't bring that up sooner, considering that he's using a walker to get around the place. But I didn't mind actually doing that, despite the fact that it smelled like a garbage sewer mixed with some sewage in the waste management. I'm still happy that I was able to take care of that for him. Now, one other thing that we had to do was go back and get my check. It felt more than 30 minutes, so we immediately went back to the place, got my check, finally, and there was no discrimination this time, because it was the host's fault that they didn't recognize me, since there was this lady in front of me, and she thought that I was with her, but it wasn't. Considering that I looked shorter than her and she thought that I was her little brother, actually. But no, that's not what happened. I got my check, put it through, then I had to pay back Dad at least a couple of bucks that I owed him from the groceries. So the last thing that we finally had to do, we just had to take care of some, gas. I obviously put the gas money through that. Then he just basically decided that, we should probably relax and smoke weed. I'm not a smoker or a drinker, and I don't even do drugs and anything like that. So I obviously declined while I rolled down my window and tried to get some fresh air instead of inhaling those fumes. Because obviously I'm not trying to waste my success and my future. I do not want to be that kind of a person who ends up lying in the ground of the alley and turn into a really, really, really bad person. Or a drug addict. They're both the same or less. But really, the only reason why I was so messed up that day is because my dad gave me a headache from all the rage he had given me. Because he didn't know how to use his phone. He always had to act stupid in front of me. And he just basically told me just to do this instead of that, which is exactly the same. I mean, if he wanted me to move his walker to a certain location where he can be able to grab it and walk back into his house, then he just told me that I'm like 2 feet off from what is exactly supposed to happen. But no, I just hardly tried to ignore that. Because I was mostly on my headphones listening to the Pokemon Direct. And I'm so happy for Diamond and Pearl being remade. But all the haters, then you should just shut up because you're going to act like that kid from SpongeBob who didn't like pistachio. And the chocolate guy would be like, then why did you ask for it? And the chocolate guy would basically represent me and Game Freak. Because you should be grateful what we gave you. Instead of always being nagged and nagged. But that's basically what I'm talking about. Being mad at both my dad and all the haters on the stream. That's all I'm gonna say. So yeah, that basically happened. And I can't wait for Diamond to be released. Or I should say Brilliant Diamond. But to be honest, I don't even know the difference between Brilliant and Shining. considering the other remakes like Fire and Leaf, Omega and Alpha, those are basically, antonyms. Brilliant and shining. Wouldn't it be something more like, I don't know, maybe glowing or shining? I know they're synonyms, but I wouldn't know actually what the symbolism is for brilliance and shining. So yeah. Sorry to end on this sour note, but stay tuned because tomorrow's March and we're going to be doing some Mario. Enjoy!